Hello and welcome. My name is Akila Reese, and I am the coordinator for instructional support with the Apex Scholars Program at Wayne State University. And I am very excited to be here with you today to provide you with some tips that you may be able to take back to your university and how to build relationships and a sense of belonging with your students virtually. For our presentation agenda, I will be starting off with the importance of building those relationships and also the importance of building and creating a sense of belonging among your students, and following up with some tips on building relationships and creating a sense of belonging virtually. So when it comes to building relationships, I really like this quote, and it reads, advising environments that express care and interest in the individual student may establish the circumstances that promote connections, and advising settings that encourage friendship, break down barriers between students and institutional authority figures, or create an atmosphere in which students open up, advisees and advisors become partners in student success and growth. And I really like that because it kind of just shows that building that relationship early with students and breaking down barriers can really grow a student in their success. So we want to promote these connections with students early on, and not only in advising settings, but in every setting. So even if you're not an advisor on campus, you can do this in any setting that you're working with students, because we want our students to always be open and honest with us. And because when they are, those are the best ways that we can build these relationships, but also we know how to help better assist them and help them. So I really like this because it shows that when we do break down those barriers, we both, the advisor and the advisee, or the student and the academic staff, can really be partners in a student's success. In building relationship, academic advisors usually are assigned to advisees for a year or longer. So this kind of sets academic advisor, or those who you may work in the first year center, up perfectly, because we are the people that the students see. We're the first person that students may see. So we have the opportunity to build relationships with students for a year or longer, where some of their instructors and their professors may not have the opportunity if students aren't diving right into their major courses. So if students are taking some general education courses, they may not have a professor that they're able to develop an ongoing relationship with, because they may only have that instructor for a semester. But we have the wonderful opportunity of building that relationship over years to get them used to the university, and at least have someone that they can identify at the university to build a relationship with, and say, oh yeah, if I have a question, I always can reach out to my academic advisor. Academic staff should approach students with care and affection. This is really big for me. I just always want my students that come to see me to know that at least they can come and they know that I care about them. And kind of tied into the third bullet point is not that I only care about them, but I care about their academics and their personal life. So I wanted to know that they're doing well, but also if they're not doing well, what can I do? Maybe it's personal issues going on, and what can I do to better assist you? So like I said, again, we want our students to know that we care about their academics, but also them as a person and their mental and physical well-being as well. The role as the academic staff plays in a student's life should never be underestimated. And I think that's important, especially as sometimes we get into our busier times in the year, and students may know we're a little bit busy, and they may be a little bit busy as well, but we always want to put our best foot forward and really just be mindful of what we're saying and taking time with students, because there's a lot of times that I may be busy, but I always want to sit down and just give my best, put my best foot forward when I'm with students, because you never know what they're going to take. And it's always the times that you don't think they're listening, it's when they're actually really listening. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've sat down with students and met with them and didn't really think that they were listening to me at all, and they will come back and say, you know what, I really used that advice that you gave me, and I really appreciate that. So we always just want to make sure that we're never taking that relationship, our student relationship, for granted and underestimating that. When it comes to a sense of belonging, Dr. Strayhorn says that belonging with peers in the classroom or on campus is a crucial part of the college experience. It can affect the student's degree of academic achievement or whether they stay in school. So a sense of belonging can be really big for a lot of students and feeling that they're part of a campus community. For a sense of belonging, academic advisors that focus on a strong interpersonal relationship, trust, mutual commitment, and student satisfaction pave the way for students to connect with the institution. Also, an increased retention and graduation rates. So although there might be a plethora of reasons why students don't return from semester to semester, we don't want a sense of belonging to be one of them, because it really and truly shows that when they feel that they have a sense of belonging, those retention and graduation rates increase. Students tend to be more loyal and supportive alumni. So although students may not graduate with all the money that they thought they were going to be making originally, and they might not be able to support the university financially right away, they always can be a walking billboard for your university. So when they have that sense of belonging, they have a positive experience at the university, they may have younger siblings, younger family members that they can say, like, yes, I really enjoyed Wayne State University. I had amazing professors. My academic advisor was amazing. I got involved in student organizations, and really just boost the, and really talk up the university, which kind of can increase the enrollment numbers. So I think that's a good thing to really focus on too, is when students have that sense of belonging, they tend to be more loyal and supportive. By providing quality academic advising, students perceive that the institution invests in them, and in turn, students may reciprocate in investments after they graduate. So this can be money, or it can be just like I said before, just walking billboard. For example, my husband played football at Eastern Michigan University, and he received a full ride scholarship. So now, ever since he's graduates, he's always buy season's tickets to the football game to kind of give back to the program that gave to him. So he's very loyal to the football team, and they built a sense of belonging for him, where he always tells stories and just really like reminiscing on his time with his teammates and also his coaches. So he always gives back to that program. Sense of belonging, this is also a good quote too, because it kind of just shows that usually students kind of, when they reflect on their university years, they really remember the people, the teachers, the friends, the significant others, such as academic advisors, that made a difference in their lives. And I know for sure for undergrad, but also grad schools, that is hands down what I can tell you about my experience of just having that sense of belonging. Felt like that I was, that I belonged at my university, and all the friends that I made, but also the wonderful professors and academic advisors that I had. That is for sure what I remember. And if anyone asked me what school, like if I could rewind time and do it again, would I still go to my institution? I would say 100% yes, that I loved it in that community that I had. So now I would like to provide you all with some tips on building a sense of belonging virtually. The first thing that you can do is send a welcome email. And I think this is especially important for our first year students now that we are virtually and they haven't really maybe have seen the university in person or met anyone in person. So kind of giving them that welcome email, or for your returning students, that welcome back email to kind of get them in the swing of things, but also say, hey, you are, for example, a Wayne State Warrior. We are excited to have you here. May get them excited too, even though we cannot be on campus. Also, you may want to send out a welcome to their major or their field to kind of get them a little excited about that and say, yes, I am an engineering student. And that might be the first time they've actually seen it on paper. So being just very excited about being a Wayne State Warrior, but also an engineering student may have a student feel that sense of belonging and part of a community right off the bat. And yep, so that was the last one. And also connecting students to student organizations. So if there's like an organization day or homecoming, anything that you can do, you may want to just send out like a big email to all of your students and letting them know like, hey, this is something that's coming up that you may want to get involved in, and maybe providing some of the students, and you may even want to provide some students with like a list of your student organizations, maybe in that field, in your welcome email. So welcome to Wayne State. We're excited that you are a part of the engineering program. Here are some student organizations that we have on campus that also engineering students join. So these are a few, but here's our you can always check Wayne State University's website for the complete list of all of the student organizations, but here are some specifically for engineering students. So that'll be good to get students connected. And I know a lot of students organizations are still meeting, even though they are virtually, and that's still a good way for students to get to know each other virtually until we can get back to campus. Connecting with other students. So it's really big with peer mentoring. I think it's really a good idea too for peer mentoring now that we are in a virtual setting, especially for our first year students, since this is their first year and they're not really getting to know people per se as if we were on campus. So really connecting students with other students, and those students can also provide advice on what student organizations that they may have joined, some internships that they have was able to experience in that major, some workshops. So whatever it may be that upperclassmen may be able to provide for their first year student or even a sophomore student. And also provide study tips and course preparation. So if you have a student who's in the same major, say you have a student who's interested in psychology, and then also an upperclassman who's taking multiple psychology classes, giving that student some tips on these are some classes, this is how you can prep for, these are the classes you have, these are some ways that you can prep for those classes because I had those, and this is where you want to look for the professor's notes and things like that to really help the student be successful at the university, but also in their classes as well. A key one that I usually always do, and you can really tell that students are surprised, but I always try to follow up with my students, and I think that shows that you care and that you're listening to them, and that's something really easy that I kind of just mark my calendar for if students mention something to me. So such as if they're saying, yeah, I'm a little stressed out this week because my sister is getting married on Saturday, and I'm the maid of honor, and I had to do X, Y, and Z. So I try to follow up with that student no later than like a week and say, hey, I know last week you were stressed out because of your sister's wedding. I hope it went well. Maybe if you know the students and you say, oh, you can send a few pictures or whatever it may be, just to kind of let the student know that you were listening, and then checking up on them and say, I hope now that the wedding is over that you're able to get back in the swing of things and your stress has decreased. You can also let students, other ones you can ask about if they said they were going to a career fair, asking them how that career fair went, or if they said a family member was having surgery, or maybe they were having surgery themselves, just following up with the students, like I said, that you show that you care about their well-being and that you were listening to them. And like I said before, it is very surprising to see the amount of students that are surprised that you actually were listening and that you remembered. So those are some tips on how you can build a sense of belonging. So now we'll move on to tips on building relationships with students virtually. I personally always love to use the appreciative advising method. It helped me with breaking down barriers with students. So if you're unfamiliar with it, it is 6 phases that you can go through when working with students. And you can look it up if you are unfamiliar, because I won't go through all the phases. But the first one that I will talk about is the disarm method, because this is one way that you can just give off that first impression with your students and welcome them personally. And also you always want to be mindful of your nonverbal communication, so such as gestures, smiling. So I do always try to smile when a student comes on and welcome them and ask them how their day is. Give them some eye contact and make sure you're focusing on the student. So I know with our home lives, things can get a little crazy and busy, but as much as we can, try to focus on students, or if you're taking notes or things like that, be upfront with the student and say, I am listening, just to let you know, I will be looking over occasionally to take notes, just so the student isn't feeling like she's not even looking at me, is she even listening to me, so they know ahead of time. Also be mindful of, I said before, of your verbal communication. So be sure to call the student by their name and make sure you know their name. So I always try to learn the student's name. If I have trouble pronouncing that, I will make sure that I pronounce it correctly and ask them. Use inclusive pronouns. So let's look at this together. We can find the answer to that, so the student doesn't feel like they're doing it all on their own when you say, oh, look that up. So maybe even if you maybe not have time in your visit with the student to look it up, for you all to look it up together, you can go back to following up and say, I know I had you look up X, Y, and Z. I just want to follow up to see what you found out. So they feel like they're not just in it all on their own. You can also do some small talk. So if you notice maybe a student is wearing a Red Wings shirt, then you can just kind of have some small talk and say, oh yeah, how are those Red Wings doing this season? And if you're a Red Wings fan too. So just kind of using that small talk to get to know your students. And always give feedback for your students. So if they said that, oh yeah, I passed my test with the A, say, yeah, you're making great progress. I'm glad you're having some great experiences in college. So just giving them some good feedback. And then also ask for feedback with students. Ask them if you may be talking too fast. Sometimes I get into that of talking too fast, or sometimes we get in the habit of using acronyms because we've been at the university for a while and the student may be not even knowing what the acronyms mean. So kind of explaining that, or just asking like, is there any questions that you have? Would you like me to help you with something in addition to what we went over already today? Just so the student knows that you're here and that it's okay that if they have additional questions or if they don't know some of the acronyms, that you are a resource that can help them. Opening questions. Sometimes I like to use some opening questions such as the rose, thorn, and bud method to kind of get the conversation going with the new students. So with the rose, thorn, and bud method, you can say the rose being a success. So you can ask the student, what's a highlight, a small win or something positive that happened to you this week, this semester, whenever you like to recap, whatever you like to recap with them. You can also say a thorn, which is a challenge. So what is a challenge that you experience, or something that you can have more support with? And a potential, which will be a bud, is any new ideas that bloomed or something that you're looking forward to or knowing more about. So sometimes if I kind of a little pressed on time, I may just do the success and challenge, and really looking for the challenge of what is something that you can use more support with, and providing those students with the resources, if I can't provide it themselves, but with the resources that I can help them with in order to get over and overcome that challenge. Sometimes I also use like a weather. So on with a weather, with a scale of sunny being the best and all the way to like rainy, cold weather, how would you say your week is going? And if they say, oh, it was rainy, it was like a lot of rain and thunderstorms, that kind of gives you kind of a heads up on how their week is going, but also what you can do, and kind of prompt questions on, well, do you mind me asking why it was that way? Is there anything I can help you with so we can get to like all the way sunny and get those clouds and rain out the way? Also, with a scale, I can say on a scale, the easy one is on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the worst. How would you say your semester is going? So those are just some ways of opening questions if you have a hard time with thinking of some questions that you can ask students right away. I also like to use preferred pronouns. So this is an example of my signature and on my email, my Wayne State email. So I have my preferred pronouns. So it just shows students that I am inclusive and that they can be themselves. And also that I care about their preferred pronouns. I've also talked to Dr. Stephanie Hawks, who is the Associate Director with our OMSI office, so our Office of Multicultural Student Affairs at Wayne State University. And she has I noticed that she had this link under there where it says pronouns and what it is and why do they matter. And so I added that to mine too, because I think it's very important for some students who may not understand what it is. So once they click the link, it takes them to this page so they can read about what pronouns are and then why it does matter for those students. And that also can help with just a simple solution of accidentally misgendering students as well. So kind of just make some students may feel comfortable when when they see that you have your pronouns on there and that you're asking for their preferred pronouns as well. Teams or Microsoft email and Microsoft Teams. At Wayne State, we use Microsoft Teams a lot. We also use Zoom, but that is kind of your first impression, the student's first impression. So since we're not meeting in person, they may just see you on your email. So they may see your picture. So I always say, if you don't kind of have a picture on your email or maybe on your Teams account or your Zoom account, that may be helpful just so students can identify you and they know you and they kind of see like, oh yeah, she seems nice. Because I think sometimes students may look at us like, oh, she seems nice, she has a smile on her face, and kind of calm those nerves before meeting. Also, like I said, it has a warm welcome them with a smile, and also they may feel more connected with someone when they can see their picture instead of like just their initials in a little bubble. I like to give my students like birthday shout outs. So in our program, I kind of made these 2 cards. Obviously we can't do it now that we're virtually, but I always make like little goodie bags for them. And when their birthday came around, because I will always have their birthday on my calendars, and I would first in our first meeting, I was always ask if it was okay that they celebrate. Is it okay that that I celebrate their birthday, or if they celebrate their birthday? And so far, all of my students have celebrated their birthday, so I always put their birthday on my calendar. And when it comes around, we always have an Apex on the birthday card, and we also have like a Apex pen and some candy. So that kind of shows students, and this is also another one that they're surprised that you remember their birthday. But now, since we're not able to give like physical gifts out or little trinkets, that I just now send them an email, and I sent them an email before too, but just letting them know that's something simple that you can do to say, I see that it's your birthday, happy birthday. And if you have a lot of students on your caseload or you work with a lot of students, you can always just do a month. So if you want to put all the students that you have in January, all of their birthdays, and just send one massive email out each month, you can do that as well and say, hey, I see you have a birthday coming up this month, wishing you a happy birthday on behalf of whatever program you're working for. So I think students really appreciate that when you remember their birthdays, because they tend to be very excited about their birthdays. So knowing that someone at the university also remember their birthdays kind of makes them feel a little bit special and helps with building their relationship with you, but also building that sense of belonging on the campus. I also use note cards and email questions now that we're virtually. So I always ask students if they have a name that they would like to go by that's different from what's listed on my roster. Also, if they have any preferred pronouns, what their birthday is, what their favorite color, hobbies, and 3 things that they would like me to know about them. And I also let them know that whatever they write on this card is not going to be shared with anyone else. It is only for my eyes only. So I'm not telling anyone else anything that they put on this card. So it's just solely between me and them, and kind of help me build that relationship with students early on. And this is what I kind of look back on when I start meeting with students, so I can see their favorite color, favorite hobbies, and then maybe talk about 3 things that they want me to know about them. So they said that they're a huge Lions fan. Maybe that's something that I can bring up. Although I don't watch football, that I can still ask maybe how the season went, or if they're excited for the upcoming season, things of that nature, to kind of get the conversation rolling and getting them those nerves to go away and kind of get the conversation flowing and getting them used to me. So the last thing that I have been using and starting to use a little bit is the love languages or appreciation languages. So if you're unfamiliar, in 1992, Gary Chapman has a book called The 5 Love Languages, which usually it's for like romantic partnerships and how they express love, but you can always flip it into how you can show appreciation and that you care for students. So the 5 ones are words of affirmation. So hearing words of encouragement and affirmation, acts of service. So having small favors and tasks completed. Gift giving. So when someone receives gifts, small gifts, that's how they feel that that someone appreciates or cares about them. Quality time. So spending focused time with someone, a physical touch, giving someone a hug or a pat on the back. So some ways that you can use that in a student professional setting is, so if a student says words of if the student has words of affirmation as their top one, and there is a test that you could take or college students can take to show their appreciation languages. So if you ever working with students and you have time for them to take it, I think that would be a great thing for those students to take, so you know how they would like to be appreciated. So for words of affirmations, you can write students a note of encouragement. So if a student is saying that, oh man, that psychology class it's kind of kicking my butt right now, you can always have them have words of encouragement if you know when their next test is coming up, or just throughout the semester say, I've been thinking about you and I know you're working hard, continue to work hard. Praise them for any academic progress that they have made. So if it's an increase in focus, grades, or participation, and find any other ways to affirm the student's character. For acts of service, you can offer your students brainstorming ideas to help with the project. So if they say they have this huge essay coming up and they have to pick any topic and they're having a hard time picking that topic, if you don't have time in that appointment to maybe brainstorm ideas, you can always encourage the student to make another appointment with you and say, hey, I'm open. I have some appointments open this Friday. If you want to, we can sit down on Friday and we can go over some brainstorm some ways to get started with your essay. Give students a list of helpful resources for upcoming assignments, but also just any helpful resources they may need. If they bring up any personal issues or just issues in general that have to do with school or outside of school, you can just give them some helpful resources that can help them out, where maybe it can alleviate some of the pressure that they have set on them of looking those resources up. Quality time. So offer students, like I said before, that they can schedule another appointment with you. If you have a student that you feel that may benefit from some another appointment because they like that quality time and you were confined to maybe 30 minutes, then you can always offer that student to make another appointment with you, and spend undivided time with the student discussing recent academic challenges and progress. So for the students who really like that quality time, try to block out everything else and really focus on that student, because that is the student who really will be looking at you for that quality time and making sure that you're not distracted with other things that's going on. Gift giving. So these two, gift giving and physical touch, especially physical touch, is a little bit more difficult to do in a virtual settings, but when we're back in person, these are just some ideas that you can do when we're back in person. So for gift giving is give your students some department swag if possible. So for us, we're able to give mail out students for our new students, there's some department swag that has Apex on it, and so some students may appreciate that. If we're back in person during finals and midterms, you may be able to provide students with like some colorful highlighters or their favorite pens and pencils. And another thing too is I've had students that if they ask to have a pen or write something down, they may comment on the pen like, oh, I really like this pen. I like how it writes. And I might tell them like, oh, you can go ahead and have it as long as it's not my favorite pen as well. But those simple things like that, they may appreciate. Also give students some note cards on how they could prepare for upcoming exams. So that's something that you can do. And also, one of the things that students really love is candy. I always have a candy jar on my desk, and even the students maybe that I don't work one-on-one with, they will still come in because they know I have candy in my office because the other students have told them that I have candy in my office. But it also gets the students that I do work one-on-one with to possibly come in and talk to me a little bit more, because when they do come in, they usually say something to me. So they say, oh, good morning. And I'll say good morning and ask them how they're going. So it may help them, like lure them into my office, and it gets the conversation going and building that relationship. Physical touch, like I said, again, this may be more for when we're back in person, but you can always give a student a pat on the back. You can also give a student a high five. Maybe virtual high fives may make them feel good too. So you can try to give a virtual high five, handshake, or fist bump too. Is some ways that you can show physical touch and that you appreciate students. So I'm gonna leave you with a video from Dr. Strayhorn. And I think it's a very good video of how building that sense of belonging and relationships is important for our students.
It's my favorite story to talk about Franklin. When I met Franklin, he was a 6th grader for the 3rd time. I was a music teacher in suburban Maryland, and Franklin was this tall, much taller than I, that's not very difficult to do, but much taller than me, 6th grader. I remember Franklin being labeled troublemaker, rule breaker, problem child. Many teachers told me, just leave him to his problems. But not me. I was new, and I was courageous, and I was going to change him. So I tried one day, and he threw a stapler at me. But I'm resilient. Tried again, and he dropped a chair on my foot. And most people say 3rd time's a charm, so one day in the winter I tried again, and Franklin kicked me in the back during lunch recess. And at that point I realized I don't have enough health insurance or limbs to keep trying with Franklin. So like many other teachers before me, I gave up on him. One day I was sitting at the piano in my classroom, preparing for the next day's lesson, and in the hallway I heard, "We all wanna belong." And I didn't know if I had suffered so much head trauma from Franklin's abuse that I was actually singing and I didn't know it. But then it happened again. "We all wanna belong, yeah." And I ran out into the hallway and I looked and I said, oh, Franklin, frightening Franklin. That's what the teachers called him. "I didn't think you could sing." And he said, "Well, that's good. I didn't think you could think. So now we're even." And I asked him about the words to the song. And over the next 40 minutes, I learned a valuable lesson, that in fact, Franklin wasn't frightening. Franklin wasn't a rule breaker. He wasn't a bad kid. Franklin was frightened about his future. He was upset about his family life. He was tired of adults giving up on him. He just simply wanted a chance to belong. In my work, I think that belonging can be analyzed in a couple of different ways. One, that sense of belonging is a basic human need. All of us want to belong. How many people in here want to belong? You want to fit in. You want to feel connected. Anyone who does not want to belong, will you stand with me now? Everyone wants to belong. It's a human basic need, all the way back to Maslow. But there's a second component to belonging, and that is that not only is belonging a basic need, but it's a motive sufficient to drive behavior. People do things because they want to belong. People wear certain things, act a certain way, talk a certain way, go certain places because they want to fit in, they want to belong. And then third, sense of belonging is not only a basic need, not only a motive for basic behavior, but it takes on heightened importance in certain contexts, certain times, for certain people, in certain situations. I argue for many students who are vulnerable to feeling isolated or marginalized in college contexts, like women and racial and ethnic minorities. Sense of belonging sort of reflects the sentiments of a couple words like, I matter to people. think back to the story of Xavier. People care about me, the story of Jonathan and me. I'm worthy of dignity and respect, of friendship, of acceptance for all of my various identities. Not only that, there are some misconceptions about belonging, that in order to belong, you have to sort of fit in, you have to sort of assimilate or acculturate, and I'm gonna argue against that. I don't think you have to do that. I think sense of belonging requires us to be alike enough, to share enough in common, to find community, but in fact to celebrate the fact that we are different, and that those differences are not touted as deficiencies, but in fact celebrated as actual contributions to this beautiful community that we create today. Many of you, look at you, you're a beautiful audience. You look much better from this side, by the way. From the back, you look very hairy. But those are our differences, and they are to be celebrated. They enrich us, they enrich our educational context. The success of this country depends on our ability to prepare citizens for active participation in democracy. And part of that depends on our success in educating current and future generations of students. And their success, their educational success, I argue, depends in part on the extent to which we create environments in the home, in the school, and the community where they fit in and they belong. Because remember, we all want to belong, yeah. Thank you.
Hope you all enjoyed that video from Dr. Strayhorn, and I would like to leave you with this to remember that no matter where we are, our students are around the world, that we always want our students to know that we care for them, that we are always here for them, and that they belong. Thank you. And please feel free to get in contact with me if you have any questions or if you just want to reach out. My email address is below. It is gs0841@wayne.edu. Thank you again for attending, and I hope you all enjoyed my presentation.